Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to They Said What? My name is Mr. Rod, and this is the podcast where we take the loudest ideas floating around in sports, culture, business, entertainment, and everyday conversations, and we slow them way down just long enough to ask a basic question. Does that even make sense? Greetings. Let me ask you something. Are we, the people, accurately judging what's happening around us, or are we giving way too much weight to what's happened most recently? Is the latest athlete automatically the greatest? Come on. Is the newest political controversy unprecedented somehow? Is the most recent storm proof that nothing like this has ever happened before, or at least in our lifetime? Or have we simply developed a habit of treating whatever happened last as though nothing else happened before it? Today, we're talking about something that's quite possibly very distorting our judgment, manipulating our emotions, shortening our memories, and disconnecting us from reality. It's called recency bias, y'all, and it's here. Recency bias is the tendency to give greater importance to the information, experiences, opinions, and events we encountered most recent. In plain language, it means the last thing we saw becomes the biggest thing we remember. The newest tragedy feels like the greatest tragedy of all time. The latest scandal feels like the worst scandal ever. The most recent winning streaks make a team look completely unbeatable. The latest losing streak makes people believe that the team will never ever win again. One recent mistake causes us to forget 10 years of faithfulness. One recent success causes us to overlook 10 years of poor decision making. But our problem, and that's right, it's our problem, is even deeper than ordinary recency bias. We are experiencing what I like to call disconnected recency bias. That's when we form strong opinions about recent events without connecting it to history, long-term trends, previous examples, reliable measurements, or the complete circumstances surrounding it. We see the event, we react to the event, we share the event, we argue about the event, but we never properly examine the event in its totality. Now, believe it or not, social media did not invent dishonesty. It did not invent violence. It did not invent political division. It did not invent bullying, greed, lust, hatred, corruption, prejudice, jealousy, or even manipulation. But what it did do, social media accelerated the delivery system. It now places the event in front of millions of people almost immediately. A confrontation that might once have been witnessed by 12 people can now be seen by 12 million instantly. A foolish comment that might once have disappeared into the air can now be recorded, reposted, edited, analyzed, mocked, monetized, and preserved forever. Now, that creates the impression that certain behaviors are brand new or suddenly happening absolutely everywhere. However, increased visibility is not always the same as increased frequency. Sometimes something is happening more often. Sometimes we are simply seeing it more often. Those are not the same conclusions. Before social media, and there was a before social media, communities still experienced crime, family problems, political corruption, racial conflict, workplace discrimination, school violence, financial scams, and moral failures. The difference now is that many of those events remained local. Today, a person in Cleveland can watch an incident in California, Georgia, London, Chicago, or South Africa within minutes. By the end of the day, that one person may have watched 20 disturbing incidents from 20 different locations. Their mind can begin to conclude, this is happening everywhere all the time. But those 20 incidents may have occurred among hundreds of millions of people. That does not make the incidents acceptable, of course. It means we must understand the difference between the emotional collection of videos and an improperly measured social trend. Seeing 10 videos is not the same as examining 10 years of data. Reading 100 comments is not the same as understanding public opinion. Watching several crimes online does not automatically tell you whether crime is rising or falling over time. Hearing repeated political accusations do not prove that those accusations are actually true. And seeing one person behave badly does not establish the character of an entire race, generation, political party, profession, religion, city, or country. But that's exactly what disconnected recency bias encourages us to do. We move from, I just saw this happen, to, this always happens, to, those people are like that. That's not careful reasoning. That's emotional generalization. Social media algorithms also learn what keeps our attention. When we stop and watch one frightening video, the platform may show us another frightening video right then and there, then another, and then another. After a while, the platform hasn't necessarily shown us a balanced picture of society. It's shown us more of what caused us to remain on the platform. Then we begin believing we're studying the world when we may actually be studying a customized stream of emotional, provocative content. Political recency bias is dangerous because many elections are presented as the most important election in all of history. Many controversies are described as unprecedented. Opposing candidates are often portrayed as existential threats. Short term approval ratings are often treated like final verdicts. Short term economic movement can become proof in people's minds that one side is completely right while the other side is completely wrong. But politics cannot properly evaluate through one speech, one debate, one poll, one headline, 1 month, or one viral moment. A politician may have a singular impressive performance and still possess a poor record. Another may have one terrible interview but a long history of effective work. A policy may create immediate excitement but cause long term damage. Another policy may create short term discomfort while producing long term benefits. We simply cannot measure leadership through isolated moments. We must examine patterns. What did the person promise? What did the person do? What changed? Who benefited? Who paid the price? What were the results after 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years? And were those results caused by the policy or did they happen during the same period for completely different reasons? Recency bias does not like those questions because those questions require patience. Modern political communication prefers immediate emotional reactions, outrage, analysis later. And all too often, the analysis never comes true. Sports fans may be one of the greatest or some of the greatest practitioners of recency bias of all time. An athlete has 3 great games, and suddenly people call him the greatest of all time, which of course you know I do not believe in. Another athlete struggles for 2 weeks, and people say she's finished, she's done, kaput. A team wins 5 consecutive games, and fans begin planning a championship parade. The same team loses 3 games in a row, and everybody needs to be traded or fired. But championships are not won through social media reactions. They are won through preparation, consistency, health, discipline, coaching, execution, and of course, performance over time. Greatness, as we all should know, must be measured across seasons, opponents, pressure situations, rule changes, injuries, competition levels, and postseason results. Now, we can appreciate when an athlete is doing okay today without pretending that no one has ever done anything impressive before. Respecting history does not diminish today's players. It gives us a fair standard by which to evaluate them. There's a difference between saying that was an incredible performance and saying that was the greatest performance anyone has ever produced. Now, the first statement expresses appreciation. The second requires evidence, which in many instances will never materialize. Disconnected recency bias also damages relationships. A spouse forgets something important, and suddenly we say, "You never think about me." A friend fails to call, and we conclude, "You're never there when I need you." An employee makes one mistake, and the manager forgets 10 years of dependable work. A family member says something hurtful, and one painful conversation replaces hundreds of loving interactions. Sometimes the recent incident reveals a serious pattern, but sometimes it's an incident and not a pattern. Wisdom, wisdom, wisdom requires us to know the difference. We should not ignore harmful behavior merely because someone has done good things in the past. We also should not erase a person's entire history because of one imperfect moment. Fair judgment considers both the recent action and the established pattern. Ask yourself this: was this an isolated failure? Has this happened repeatedly? Has the person accepted responsibility? Has anything changed? Is trust being repaired? Are the words and behavior now consistent? Recency bias reacts. Wisdom evaluates. Every single older generation appears tempted to believe that the younger generation is the worst generation. They don't work, they don't listen, they have no respect, they're addicted to technology, they don't care about God. But older generations were criticized as well. Previous generations were condemned for their clothing, music, hairstyles, dancing, politics, language, technology, and changing social values. Now, that does not mean that every generational concern is wrong. Some cultural developments deserve serious criticism, as do many things. But we must stop acting as though foolishness, rebellion, selfishness, and disrespect were invented by people born after a certain year. Come on. That's ridiculous. Because younger people must also resist their own form of recency bias. Not every old idea is outdated. Not every tradition is oppression. Not every historical institution is completely useless. And not every problem can be solved by destroying everything that existed before social media. Older generations possess experience, younger generations have not lived yet. Younger generations may recognize problems older generations have not learned to tolerate. We need historical wisdom and present day awareness working hand in hand. Now, to the church. The church is not immune from all of this. People may hear one popular preacher and assume that the message is sound because it's new, emotional, entertaining, or widely shared. A church experiences a sudden increase in attendance and people automatically call it a spiritual revival. Another church experiences a temporary decline and people assume God is no longer working there. A believer goes through a difficult season and begins to believe God has abandoned them, forgetting that the many previous times God carried them through it. A Christian receives one blessing and begins treating that blessing as proof that every personal decision has God's approval. But Scripture teaches believers to examine, test, remember, and remain spiritually alert. Ecclesiastes 1 and 9 reminds us that there is nothing new under the sun. Now, that doesn't mean that every circumstance is identical. It means that human nature repeatedly produces familiar patterns. Pride still destroys people. Greed still corrupts judgment. Fear still manipulates crowds. Power still tempts leaders. False teaching still attracts people who want comforting answers without accountability. And truth still requires courage, every single day. Proverbs 18 and 17 teaches us that the first person to present a case may appear right until another person examines the matter. That scripture challenges the entire social media culture. Now, the first video may not show the entire confrontation. The first headline may not tell the complete story. The first witness may not possess all of the facts. The first explanation may be persuasive and yet still be wrong. Christians should not be the easiest people to manipulate. We, all of us, should be thoughtful, patient, prayerful, and, most of all, committed to the truth. James 1 and 19 instructs believers to be quick to hear, slow to speak, and even slower to anger. Social media encourages just the opposite: quick to speak, quick to become angry, and slow to listen, and also unwilling to reconsider. How do we defeat disconnected recency bias? Before performing a strong opinion, use what I call the 5-point reality check. Number one, please identify the time frame. Are we looking at one day, 1 month, 1 year, or several decades? A short term change may not represent a long term trend. Don't build a lifetime conclusion from a temporary moment. Number two, find the baseline. Compared to what? Saying something is the worst requires historical comparison. Saying an athlete is the greatest requires agreed upon standards. Without a baseline, we're measuring emotion and not reality. Number three, separate frequency from visibility. Is the event actually happening more often, or are cameras, phones, news outlets, and algorithms making it more visible? More footage does not automatically mean more incidents. Less footage does not mean the problem doesn't exist. Number four, examine the full pattern. Don't judge a person, institution, community, or generation by a single example. Look for repeated behavior. Look for consistency. Look for context. Look for long-term consequences. Patterns tell us more than isolated moments. Number five, question your emotional reaction. Why did this particular event affect you so deeply? Did it confirm something you already believed? Did the headline make you afraid? Did the video make you angry? Did the story make you feel morally superior? Emotions, everyone, are real, but emotions are not always reliable investigators. Sometimes the content is designed to make us react way before we think. Think about this. We should not dismiss new problems by claiming everything has happened before. Technology has changed the speed, reach, permanence, and power of communication. Artificial intelligence, social media, digital surveillance, global connectivity, and instant information have created circumstances previous generations did not experience in exactly the same manner. But the motives behind many of these circumstances are familiar. People still desire attention. People still manipulate information. People still pursue wealth and power. People still follow crowds. People still fear what they don't or can't understand. People still believe information that supports their preferred worldview. And people still resist facts that change them. That platform may be new, but human weakness is often ancient. Now, the real greatest danger of recency bias is not simply that we could be, may be wrong. The greatest danger is that someone else may learn how to control us through it. Here we go now. When people know we have short memories, they can repackage failed ideas as new solutions. When they know that we react emotionally, they can keep us angry. When they know that we never examine history, they can, of course, rewrite it. When they know we only remember the last and latest headline. They can bury yesterday's contradiction beneath today's controversy. When they know that we judge through isolated clips, they can edit the clip. When they know that we crave immediate answers, they can give us confident misinformation before the truth has time to emerge. A society without historical memory becomes easy, oh so easy to manipulate. A church without biblical memory becomes easy, oh so easy to deceive. A voter without institutional memory becomes oh so easy to persuade. And a consumer without financial memory becomes easy, very easy to exploit. And a person without personal memory may forget just how many times God has already brought them through something. Now, here's my final thoughts. Everything recent is not historic. Everything viral is not important. Everything emotional is not accurate. Everything visible is not widespread. Everything unprecedented is not truly unprecedented. And everything old is not irrelevant. We, as a society, need to slow down, pump the brakes, look backward before declaring that something means moving forward. Compare the moment to the pattern. Compare the headline to the evidence. Compare the accusation to the complete story. Compare the promise to the results. Compare the popular message to the word of God. And before saying, this has never happened before, take the time to find out whether it has or hasn't. The next time a truly breaking story appears on your screen, don't immediately ask, how angry should I be? Ask this: what do I actually know? What am I still missing? What happened before this? What does the evidence show over time? And who benefits if I react before I understand? Because an informed person may still be concerned. An informed person may still be angry. An informed person may still demand accountability. But an informed person will not easily be controlled by whatever is happening 5 minutes ago. Think about this. The most recent event may deserve your attention, but it hasn't automatically earned your conclusion. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.